we're starting back up with finishing up assignment number 5. So for those of you who came in a little bit late, or for those of you who have had issues typing and running and following me this morning, I put in another file up here. It's called assignment 5-2. It is a zip file that has the latest and greatest that I just put together since the break. So download this file if you're having problems with your code, and you can use this as a kind of a way. I just did this like at 11:04, so this is during the recent break. So I'll leave this up. And meanwhile, what I did to make this work is I uncommented out this code down here on the bottom. So I'm gonna, when I uploaded it, says I wanted you to be able to run it. So I am now uncommenting what I commented out before I did the upload. And let's see what we got here. 5-2 is the one I just completed. Okay, so we have this little static method here, and in the instructions, let me go back to the instructions. There was something up here. I stopped short a little bit. Where did I stop short? Right here on number 4. I skipped it, or I stopped short on it. I also did miss something up here. Starting from 1 should be unique. So let's I'm gonna go way back up to person ID. Yes. Swing is number 4. Yeah. It's called swing. Those are the examples to do for number 4. Yeah. 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 What you wanted to do is pick out one of those and make your own, using the examples. You can if you want. There's like several different versions of it. You can play around with it. You can change the swing components too. You don't have to use the same as the assignment description. Give me something in swing. That's what the assignment was. I changed it. Okay, person. Person has an ID. And we're going to start from 1, and it should be unique. So I'm going to make a static counter for person. And now I'm going to talk about static, actually, which is what I didn't want to do without taking a break first. So let's go back to the student, because that's where we have the student ID. Here's our student. And in here, did we have a student in here? I'm going to take a look now at the instructions. Person, I'm sorry, it's person. Each one of our people have a ID. It's not a student, it's an ID. So let's go back to people. Maybe we should have had lunch break before I started this. Okay, people. So here's our private integer. And I'm going to put the word static in front of it. Static private integer ID. So I'm going to make this a counter. If I make a static piece of data, what do I want to make static? Static is shared by all instances of the object. So anything I put in here, all instances of all objects will be able to use this counter. I'm going to create a counter. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this a separate. I'm going to say static, because we don't necessarily want to make the IDs public. We don't want to make the IDs class level. So I'm going to go static private counter integer counter. And I can actually initialize it. I can actually say 0, equals 0. Okay, so the difference between static and not static. Static is class level. Not static is instance level. So each instance has their own, this is why I put the counter in here actually. Each instance has their own ID. So if I make 3 students and I give them IDs, they all belong, the ID belongs to each one of them individually. If I make a counter, I can increment the counter on the creation of the people and go plus, 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 plus. It guarantees that they're unique. They're unique because they're not going to get assigned the same number, and you can't assign it to the same number. So let's take a look here, which means our IDs here. All right, so I guess I could get rid of the ID. In fact, I don't even think we made a constructor with the ID anyway when we did it. But so I did static private integer counter, and I set it to 0. So how I can increment this is to go counter plus plus. In my default constructor, naturally I want to do this. I want to go counter plus plus. So, and then I'm going to take, and there's a couple of different ways of doing this. In fact, I could do it this way actually. This ID is equal to counter plus plus. So I start with 0 and counter plus plus, counter plus plus, counter plus plus. While the program's running, every instance of object is sharing the same counter because it's static. So static makes it class level. Just like static void main is a method that runs from the main object that runs outside of any instances of any of objects. It's just a number. It's just a it's just a way of doing it to keep it global. So actually, I shouldn't use the word global. It's not really global. It's shared. Let me show you. Let's demonstrate this, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. So it's an integer counter, and it's just a variable called counter, and it's equal to 0. So which means it's going to be initialized and starting with 0. And then in the code, every time we make a person, this .id is going to be counter plus plus. If we make a person, in fact, let's just spread this out here. I'm going to change the person constructor to take out the ID because I don't want it to be user assigned. I want the ID to be of our numbering system. So now I have this .counter, and I can actually, I'm going to cause some errors in a few minutes. Let's just do it this way. Only one constructor will run. So if I set the counter to be assigned in each one of them, whichever one is running will end up working. So I'm going to take out this one here, this constructor. I don't actually need this one because this one sets the ID. I'm going to take this out actually. And if I'm using it, I'm going to have to go fix the code. Because I have the counter in the person and the person owns the ID, this .id is going to be equal to counter plus plus on every single one. So let's see what the counters do. So I'm going to save this for a second, close it, see if I've caused any errors. And student, I've got an error on student now. Student is sending back the ID. Well, we don't want this. We don't need this constructor. So now I'm going to make the students and the people without IDs because I want the ID set automatically with the counter. Because remember, I kind of made that part blue, and then I kind of... All right, so this one here is going to send the name back, not the ID. And let's see, I think I've corrected all of this. File save. Let's see, employees got some issues. Don't really need this one anymore either, because we're not going to set the IDs anymore. We're going to have the system set the IDs automatically. So let's see, file save. Okay, we're looking pretty good. How did I create them in main? That's a good question. Let's see. Oops. Oh, actually, I kind of like this. Let me do that. There we go. Oops. Now I close that window completely. How do I get that window back? Window. Editor. Show view. File. Navigator. Oh, there we go. I liked it better when it was like that. Okay, good. So let's see. Let me go back up here. I didn't create anybody with IDs. I didn't actually use those. So now I want to play around with this a little bit. So I'm going to comment out this code here. This is the static method we haven't added yet. I want to see how the counters work. So show you what's going on with this. So we created, I'll just do it. I'm just going to do it down here on the bottom so I can get rid of it. I'll just right here on the top so I can get rid of it. I'm going to create, so let's go, because I don't want to use the array yet either. So let's see, student S1 is equal to new student. And employee E1 is equal to a new employee. Amp. Oops, too many E's. There we go. And let me just make one more here so we can have, what do we have? Instructor. Instructor I1 is equal to new instructor. Let's just call this guy Mary, Bob, Mary, and Joe. Joe. There we go. I don't know where Joe came from, but okay, there we got Joe. And now I'm going to system out. I'm going to see what their ID numbers are. So I started fresh in the beginning of the program, and I'm creating 3 of them. So system out dot print line, and I'm going to go s1 dot get name has ID. Oh God, you're right. I know. Two-string. Thank you. S1 dot toString. Thank you. Let's just do it 3 times. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know why I didn't think about that. So E1, you're right. Does it printing out the ID though? Let's see what it prints out. We'll just see. Let's just see what it does. I1. Let's see. Let's see here. So let's see. Let's run it. The student doesn't have an ID. ID is 1 and 2, but student doesn't. So let's see. Student doesn't have an ID. Oh, it's not my print. Hold on. Let me fix my. Are you saying it's not in the toString? Yeah, it's probably not. Student is the issue here. Let's go students. Student toString. Oops. toString. There it is. Student. Oh yeah, I just put the grade level. Student ID. Get ID. Okay. Oops. Now we run it. So student ID is 0. Remember we started out with 0, 0 plus plus. We initialize the object. Now we have 1. Now we have 2. So every new student that we create is going to get the value that's shared by all of them in the counter. So the reason why we made this static, going back to person, we made the counter static so it's shared by all instances of the objects that are created. And because we put it in person, everybody is a person. Therefore, plus plus happens on all of these constructors every time we make one. And in this particular case, we start with 0, 1, 2. So if I started, for example, up here, let's just go 100. 100. Now I'm going to get 100, 101, 102. So let's see. 100, 101, 102. So it's a great way of keeping a counter, like a check register, like, check numbers, ID numbers, to keep them and make them unique, and so that they can't be duplicated. Because the counter is going to assign the next available one to the next person, and everybody will get a unique one. Singleton? Let's not do that. Let's not go there right now. Let's just talk about static right now. Static makes it class level instead of instance level. Makes it available to all instances of the class. So let's take another look here at main. So now we fixed this problem. So we were running through our to-do list. This one's now solved. This is starting from 1. Oh, okay. I started from 100. So anyway, it doesn't really matter where we started from. I guess I could change it to 1. There we go. Now we have it starting with 1. Okay, now we're technically correct. Okay, let's see. Now we have this method here. There's a static method, find students. And this one was in the main, which is why we went down to main, actually. It's a method and we need to put this method in the instructor class to fill in an instructor's object student IDs with, an instructor's objects student IDs array with the corresponding teacher IDs fields. Let's just simplify this because it's a little hectic here. And then the person should be declared as an abstract class. We did that. We're working on this one right now. I just want to make sure we did the rest of them first. This one was declared abstract. We provide multiple constructors and methods if needed. We did that. Check the test.java program below to see that constructor methods are necessary, and we did that. And if a class can use a parent class's method and constructor, use super. We did that to reduce the redundancy of the code. Make sure the test program can work with your class. I'm doing that now. And then the last but not least, number 9, see the sample output below. From the sample output, you'll know what information should be printed to the screen. Well, I have to uncomment that code. The sample output is not unique output format of the test program. The real output depends on how you design the toString method. Obviously, our toString looks a little different. And we're going to use the toString method to print out everything on these objects. So there is no main method. There's no main method in any of the 4 classes. Well, we know better than that. We didn't do that. And to make sure the ID is unique, cross objects declare a static last ID. Well, I did counter. I called it counter. Static counter in the person class. That's what we did. I read the description of test.java very carefully for better understandings. Okay, good. And we have this. So let's do this part. We need to add this method. This is a static method. We've actually looked at a static method already. We have one that's very popular. It's called main. So in our main program, we have static, public static void main. It's a program that runs automatically without making an instance of main. We just run it, and main is the entry point or the starting point of the processing. So in, let me go back here for a second. We need a find students method in the instructor class. So in the instructor class, let's close these guys here. Save, yes. Main, we'll leave main up. I don't need print me anymore. Here's the instructor class. We're going to run in main this method here, and the method that we're going to run is the one that's causing errors here, so I'm going to uncomment this for a second. You notice the way that we're running this method. We're running it on the class itself. Oops. Hello. I have uncommented something. Nope, actually we're good. We're good. What's this going to say? Let's see. I'm going to leave that alone. I have probably messed up my brackets somewhere. So this is the method call here. And the method call, here, let's just do this. I want to try and run this method, but in order for me to run the method, I have to work in code. I don't know what to do with this code here. Okay. Okay, I guess the code was offending. So anyway, let's just make sure we work. No. Okay, yeah, we should. Let's make sure we're still working. We're still working. Okay, very good. Take out the comment. This is the code I want to run, but this method doesn't exist. So you might notice that I'm not running this on an instance of the object. Instead, I'm typing in the name of the class, instructor.findStudents. So I'm going to, it's a person array. So it's going to be a person array as the argument. I'm going to go here, copy. And then I'm going to go up to instructor. And instructor has a student ID array. Well, it's not kind of like it's a person array. It's going to keep track of all these people. Yeah, all these people are going to, some of them are going to be students, and the students are going to be added in to this array to keep track of students. This is the one we're really trying to populate. And then it's an integer array. So I'm going to stick it like right up here. So we can see how this is done. In the same way that we created the static data, we're going to create, and I'm going to take this out here for a second, a public static. So I'm going to go public static void find students. And as soon as I correct my spelling errors, I am going to fix this here because this is going to be integer. It's going to take on an integer array? Sure, why not? Integer. Oh, actually, we're going to pass the array. Yeah, it's going to take in an integer array. Integer. Person array. We'll just call, well, I call it person array because I called a person array over there. So in order for me to run this method, I have to pass it a person array. And my person array here was created. So find students is a change find students integer to find students. Okay, it's going to be a person. Let's make it a person in here instead of an integer because we're going to put the objects in. We're just going to load the objects in there. So let's just do it this way then. It's not enter. It's going to be person. And we're going to load 10 people in here. Originally, I was going to put the IDs, but you know what? We'll just load the people in here. And people are like, well, I could figure out loading integers inside of an array. Well, then the ID is the same with people or with objects. It's just an object. You can stick it inside of the array just like integer is an object. So the main code wants us to stick the people themselves in the array instead of their IDs. So let's just do it that way. If we're going to do that, then out in main, find students. Let's save this one. Change method find students integer. I just did that. Find students person. Did I not do that? I did not do that. You're right. The code is right. Person. I'm like, didn't I just do that? Okay. So I'm running this method. Here I'm just going to say method running. I'm actually not even going to do anything. I'm just going to system.out.println. Static method running. So when I call the static method here, it's going to print out static method running. Or static method ran, past tense. So in main, I'm running the method by using the instructor class, and I'm using a dot find students and passing it a person array. All right, so let's look at the person array for a second. Here it is here, person array. And person array is a new array of 20. And then we're going to put student Peter in the person array. So he is person array 0. Just like integers, just think of it like integers, or strings or floats or something. And we're initializing the value for entry 0 with a new student. We could actually create the students first, like P1, P2, P3, P4, and then take and say, well, 0 is equal to P1. So for example, let me just show you something else here just to illustrate a point. There's really no need to actually create the students first, but we could. If I did student Bob equals to a new student Bob. Now I have a reference Bob. I could do this. I could say person array. Oops, I don't know why I did that. Person array 0 equals Bob. Bob's the student. But now I got Bob hanging around. I mean, if I can create the objects this way, it kind of saves myself a step. So you can create the objects when you put them into the entries. So we're populating an array of students. And in our array of students, we have Peter. Actually, Peter got put in twice. There's 2 Peters. But they're going to have 2 different IDs, which is cool. And then we're going to have Looks like Sandy and her salary. We have an employee in there. No, we have an instructor. We have a student, 2 students. No, we have an instructor. We have an instructor, Peter, and a student, Peter. Instructor, Sandy, and an employee, janitor. So a student named Tom and his instructor is Peter. So the constructor needs to do 3 things. Set the student's teacher name to the field to be Peter. The teacher name is Peter. And find out the ID of the first instructor. So it finds out the ID of the first instructor, who exists with the person ID with the name Peter. Yada, yada, yada. So here's some samples down here. Let's just look at the samples. Person array 4 is equal to teacher ID is equal to 2. Or you could go person array 4 teacher name is equal to Peter. And then you'd be looking at this going, wait a minute, we made these all private. We did. If we made them all private, we need to set teacher ID, get teacher ID. So let's go back. I'm going to play around with Bob up here, and then I'm going to go back to the original example. Or did I take Bob out? I took Bob out. It's okay. We leave Bob in there. I misspelled Mary. There we go. We'll leave Bob in here. Actually, I've got these guys. I have S1, student S1. So I can play around with student S1. I can say S1 dot get teacher name, and then I can take S1 dot set teacher, and maybe set teacher name. I probably should have done that first. Set teacher name to a teacher name, and the teacher name. If I say, for example, I created an instructor Joe, and I want to make Joe the teacher for Bob. Bob's S1, Joe is I1. So then I do this. I go, well, I'm going to set the teacher name. Let's not get it yet. Let me take that out. I'm going to set the teacher name to I1.get name. And now you understand why we have setters and getters. And then I need to make some more teachers. Let me make another student here. Student S2 is equal to new student Greg. Greg's another student here. And now I'm going to say S2 dot set teacher name to equal to, well, it's going to be a teacher name, but what is it going to be? It's going to be maybe the same teacher, I1 dot get teacher name. Get teacher name. Oh, come on, this thing's in the way. Get name. So now 2 students have the same teacher. So if I were to print out, well, who's the teacher for S1? I'm going to get by doing the get teacher name. So let's just system out here. Actually, I don't really need to do that. I could just system out what I'm doing here. I'm going to get the teachers. If I put it in there, I don't think I put the teacher name in the toString. But I have student ID 1, 2, employee. Oh, because I created another one up here. Every time I create, my numbering system is getting thrown off because I created these extra students and everybody's using the same numbering system. So they're all getting unique IDs, which is actually kind of cool when you look at it. And then the static method ran. The static method ran. Because you know it's running a static method when you're using the class name and not an instance name. So find students is going to get this array. And you're like, well, what do you do with this array? We'll take a look at this code down here. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to uncomment this part. So this is going to be the ID and the name of all personnel in the array. So what I'm going to do is go and show you how to traverse through the array to find all the people in there. So for loop, for I is equal to 0, I is less than person, which is the person, dot get maximum ID. Well, we don't have that yet. I have to write that. It's another static method that's going to get the current ID. It's going to return the current counter. I++. So let's, and what's it going to do? It's going to system out person array I dot get ID. So it's going to get all the IDs. Let's see. For person I to string. So it's going to print out all my contents. So let's make sure I've got my, well, there we go. I just have 2 extras for some reason. I don't know where they came from. I must have taken something out. So now in person, I know that this is a static method because I'm running it from person, just like I run from instructor. So when you run a static method, you're running it from the object. You're not running it from an instance of the object. I keep repeating that, but because I'm trying to make sure you guys get this is a method running from an object. Excuse me, from an instance of an object. This is an instance method because I made S1 and S2, and I'm using S1 and S2. Those are instances, and I'm using a dot set teacher, get teacher. So in here, when I say instructor, it's running find students. Well, here's the find students. It's right here, find students. So I'm going to write another static method under here. Public static void. This one's going to get maximum ID. Get max ID. Let me just cut it so I can figure out how to copy, how to spell it. Paste. Hold on one second. Oh, I'm sorry. Put it in the wrong one. It's person. Thank you. Take it out because I don't know, because I had instructor open. And that's why I like to close these files, by the way. That way I know which one I'm putting it in. I want to put it in person because it's person dot. Yeah, so person. Let's see. I'm going to stick it right here on the top, actually. And actually, it would make sense because person has the static. If I want to get a piece of static data, I should be using a static method to get it. So in here, I'm going to say public static void get. Oh, now I got to go find what it's called. Oh, I think I pasted it. Here, let's see, edit paste. Get maximum ID. And abstract class person. And I'm like, well, I have implementation in here. I can. You can have abstract classes, can have any implementation you want. It's abstract because you have at least one abstract method. But I don't have to make them all abstract. So rather than implementing it in all of these different instances that are created, all these different classes that are being subclassed from person, I might as well just put it in person. It belongs to person. So I'm going to implement it in person. What am I going to do? Oh, actually, this is a get. What is it? It's an integer. So I'm going to return. Why don't we just return to counter? Makes sense to me. Just return to counter. So if I return to counter, then I'm going to get a number in here. That's going to be, well, let's see what it is. I don't know what it's going to be, but so now I'm going to take out these print statements that are over here. We don't need these anymore because I'm going to use the loop to print through it. So down here, I'm going to use this loop here to print through the array. So this is the person array. So it's going to print out person array 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's going to do the get ID. Do I have a get ID? I hope I do. Colon. Okay, so let's see what happens when I print this out. I have an error. We'll figure out why in a few minutes. Whoa, because I made the counters bigger than my array. I didn't put them all in the array. I made those, I know what I did. Let me fix that actually. I'm going to comment out these students I made up here. Every time I make somebody, every time I make a person, it increments my counter, and I didn't stick them all in my array. So, because my array now, I have more counters than I have array elements, so I'm exceeding the bounds of my array by using that. So let's just comment these guys out. I don't need them anyway. I only created them to illustrate a point. So I'm going to comment it out. So now my array should only have Peter, Sandy, and janitor Bob. Bob got demoted to a janitor. Okay, let's see. Well, we're looking a little better here. Student ID, Peter. Let me fix the student to put the name in correctly. Well, the salary got put in there correctly, but I'm still having a null pointer exception. Let's take a look here. I am going to fix this value this way. I want to see what this value is, actually. I think my counter might be off. Let's just take a look here. Okay, I'm going to make this one, how many people am I creating? 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1, 2, 3. 4. 4. So it has to be less than 4. Let's do it this way. I just want to see if this is the problem, or do I have another? Nope, that is the problem. Okay. So let's see what that value is. I want to print it to the screen. So I'm going to say system.out.println. And you know, I started with 1 instead of 0. I think I changed the counter to 1. So I'm off by 1. I'm 1 over. Oh, yeah. All right, we'll just do -1. It's okay. System.out.println. I think this is going to be 1 bigger than 4. Yeah. Let's see. Edit, paste. Let's see. I'm expecting the number 5 to appear to the screen. Yeah. All right, so we either change it so the counter starts with 0, or we do this. We go this. We do this. Edit, paste, and we go person.get value -1. There we go. Because we started with 1 instead of 0. So otherwise we just start with 0. So I can take this line out. I troubleshooted it. I know what happened now. So now this should work just fine. And it does. So, and we could fix this up a little bit if we wanted to. So the find students. Let's take a look here. Refresh my memory now. The static find students, that's the one we just implemented. We put it inside. We can play around with this a little bit more if we want. We can actually do another one, maybe. Somebody's calling me. Sunnyvale, California. Anybody calling me? Somebody from Sunnyvale, California is ringing. Okay. The other day I was in a class and somebody was actually calling me. It was the weirdest thing. Not here, at another school. And then I'm like, oh no, I was at, yeah. No, I was in a classroom, and somebody in the back of the room was actually calling me. And I went, and then they texted me. And I'm like, I can't hear you. I'm like, what? Why don't you just raise your hand? I mean, are we stuck with technology to the point where you're in a classroom and you can't just raise your hand and say, I can't hear you? Like, you have to go send me a text message or call me? Anyway, that's when this, like, looking at, like, they're calling me again. I was like, what's going on? Just stupid. Just raise your hand. All right. I think we did this. Did we not do this? We want to fill it in. So, oh yeah, we didn't do this part. We haven't filled in the body yet. So we're going to write a static find students. We got the method running now, and we want to fill in all of the instructor objects, student ID arrays, with the corresponding teacher ID fields. Okay, so let's just do that. We want the teachers to be aware of the students. So we have to see who you are. There's a nice little method that says instance of. So we have people, and we have all the people in the array. So let's take a look here for a second at what we're doing when we're creating these guys. Person array has in it, and the person array that we created is a person. So a person is a commonality between all of these different objects because it's the base abstract class. So if we do a person array, which was what we've done, and we've created a new person of 20, then we can stick in here students, instructors, and employees. We can stick everybody in there because they're all persons. So we have one data type with 1, 2, 3, 4 different items in there. And then we're passing it. This is the more advanced part of this assignment. We're passing it, the person array, to find students. And then inside of find students, we can take and use it in the same fashion. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this actually, because I don't like to type. I'm going to go into Instructor. Instructors are trying to find their students. They're trying to find their students and then put their student name in the student ID array. We're trying to populate this array with what we get when we go through, oh, here it is, this array. So if that's the case, instead of printing out this stupid system, let's see how, let's take a look at the objects we're getting. So I'm going to paste this in here. And I don't necessarily need to print them out, so I'm going to take this printout line away here. So I have person array coming through. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. I have public static void find students, and I'm taking the person array that I'm getting from the main that has the 2 students, an employee, and something else. Did I assign the students? Did I assign the students? When I created the students, did I assign them teachers? How about if I just take all the students and give them, let's just modify this because I don't really feel like dealing with this. Let's just take all the students and assign them to the teacher. What we really want to do is we want to inspect. We want, and actually I could easily fix it. I want to inspect each one of these objects and I want to see what it is. So I'm going to loop it. So I'm going to say for I is equal to 0, I is less than person dot get maximum ID minus 1. I'm still going to go through this array. It's the same size. It's the same array I passed, right? Instead of systeming out it, I'm going to put a little code in here. I'm going to say if, a little check in here, person underscore array I is that instance of, oh, now I have to make sure I can remember how to spell this. Instance of, now I'm going from memory. Let me put it in wrong, and then I'm going to fix it. There's a method that you can do on any object to see what it is an instance of. So if it's an instance of, and what I really want to do is check for person, or for student. It's a student object. I have to put a valid student name in there. Let me get the syntax. So hold on one second. I'm going to do it. Okay, my bad. It's not a method. It's a built-in method, but it takes on no parameters and it doesn't run like that. It's just it's a keyword that's used on any object. We have instance of tells you what type of object it is. It says if it's, you can do a subclass. Are we a subclass of this object? Are we an instance of this object type? You use the type student and the array. So if it is an instance of student, then let's just do a quick test here. And I just want to print out this line here. So what I'm going to do is leave this in here. And I'm just going to print this guy out here to show you what this functionality is doing. And the functionality is the same line before, but now I'm just going to print out from here. So I'm going to change this so I can know where it's coming from. I'm just going to put another system out in here. System.out.println inside of method. That way I know I can find it in my output. Okay, and so now I'm going to print it to the screen. And then we're going to run a check. So inside of method, we have one student ID 1. We only have one student? Seriously? We only created one student? We need to create some more students. Hold on one second. Maybe I'll print out the student's name then or something. Student. You're right, we only have one student. Let me create some more students. Person, array. Oh, okay, I'm going to actually add it in. We can take up to 20 items. I'm going to add 3 students in here. And just move everybody over. I'm going to put Larry, Curly, and Mo in here. I only put one student in there. That's ridiculous. I'll keep one as Peter. I'll put here Larry and Mo. And we'll just print their names out. It'll be easier that way. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I got 5 people. I go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's see what happens now when I run it. It doesn't matter how many students as long as I have under 20. So now I have inside of method. It's doing it for each one of the loops actually. So I can fix that problem. But I have 0 ID 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, good. So let me go back to student because really we don't want to print this out every time. Let me pull this out of here and put this outside of this loop. I just want to stick it in the method up here, just so we know when we're inside the method. Either that, I can get rid of the main one. So if we can print out who they are, we can run methods on who they are too. So we can say, you know, if you're a student, then you have a student name. Then what we could do then here is take this array up here and do the same thing we did with the other array and say that edit copy. If our counter is 0, we can populate it this way and go paste. The counter is I. So student ID, this is our data member, student ID array, I, is going to be equal to, we'll just make it equal to the person, right? We made a person array. Let's just put the person in there. So then I'm going to put in here person underscore array I. Now I just typed it right incorrectly, and what did I do here? This is typed incorrectly as well. Static. It's not static. Oh, I am in a static method. I must make it static. I can't make a static method without having a static. I can't use static data inside of a static method. Excuse me, I can't use non-static data inside of a static method if I'm going to make this array available inside of a static method at a class level. I need to make the array static. So if you have your mouse over, you see that. Change student ID array to static. That fixes the problem. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is new students, they just like see that and they go, oh yeah, change it to static, change it to static. And then I look at the code and everything says static on it. And then people just keep writing static on everything without understanding what it does. So you don't necessarily need it, but this particular case, that needs to be static because I'm using it inside of a static method. So now if I run it, it should work. Shouldn't get any errors. I'm not going to see any difference though. Instead, now I'm going to print out at the end of this loop. I've taken the loop and I've populated. I'm going to take this line out now. Hit cut. I'm going to take that line out. And at the end of this method here, so now I'm outside of that for loop. Let's just create another for loop, and this time I just want to print it. So this one is going to be, let me put this piece in here, paste. Actually, I could print it out in main if I wanted to. I can print it here. Let's just do it here. I'm just going to put another loop in here to print out what's inside of the array we just populated. Or, you know what? Let's do it this way. I'm sorry. Let's just create another method to print it. So that's more logical. So let's do this. I'm going to put it under, if I can find the end. Here it is here, actually. Hold on one second. Let me just clean this one up a little bit. I'm going to put another one in here to print out, and we're just going to run it. Actually, it's not going to be static. I'm just going to do a regular method, and I'm going to run it on the instance of the teachers to see who their students are. Can I do that? Instructor, yeah, I populated the instructor array. Let's see what happens. Let's see. I'm going to be creative here. Public print students. Print students. Oops, I probably have to give this a data type too. Students. I do have to give it a data type. What am I going to do? I'm going to just make it void. Public void print students. And let's just do it this way. this is flawed because I'm giving, well, I only have one instructor, but giving all the instructors would actually have all the students from instructor. No, instructor's populating out the students. Well, let's just do it this way. Paste. I'm only going to get the students. I'm going to print the students. So for I is equal to 0, let's see. Person dot maximum ID, I plus plus. Let's just do it this way. System out. System dot out dot print line. And I'm going to print student array. Watch this one. This is good. This is good. This is cool. Let's see. I'm going to run the toString on it. toString. We're really getting our money's worth out of that toString. And I need to put a, there we go. Alright, so now I've got another method called print students, and print students is going to take the student array that's up here that we just populated. So I'm going to have to put this call to print students. It's a method call. So I have to print it from one of the instructors. But I'm giving all the instructors all of the students in this particular case. So if I go to main, and where am I running this one? Here it is, here. I can just comment this out actually. Don't need printed here. So I'm just going to print it out this way. So I can tell what we're doing. From, let me find an instructor. Instructor Peter, which is going to be person array 3. So I'm just going to do this. So I'm going to say person array, I spelled that right, 3 dot print students. And what did I do here? Person arrays under, it's lowercase. And print students is in type, what did I do it here? I did print students. So print students is type person. I'm doing it from the array that is the instructor. I put an instructor element in it. I didn't overload it, so I can cast it. I can actually do this. Where's the cast going to go? Instructor. No, actually I have to cast it to a student. I mean to a person. I have to cast. I can't do it this way. I have to cast the person. I have to cast the instructor to a person to run the person's print. To run the instructor. It's a person. It's a person array. I have to cast it to instructor. Okay, wait a minute. Let's do it this way. Can I do it this way? I don't know if I can cast it this way. It's not going to be, I can't cast it this way. It's not going to cast this way. The problem is I have an array of people. And the people are down here. And I put an instructor in it. And I'm running an instructor method. So I've cast myself down into people so that we're all consistent. We can put all these different types of all in the same inheritance. And I'm running a method that's too far up in the hierarchy that a person is not aware of. So I would have to cast, I can do it. Let's do it. Instructor test is going to be equal to new instructor. No, let's cast it. Instructor. No, I need to go, yeah, instructor from person array 3. Let's see, I can fix it this way. I just have to fix the cast. And then test dot print students. If you don't get this part, don't worry. It's the casting. If this doesn't make any sense, if this makes sense to you, you're like really good at this point. If this does not make any sense to you, don't worry about it. It's above and beyond the first 10 weeks of a Java course. So, yeah, it's not going to work. Let's see. It does show an error. Student ID 1, 2, 3. Oh, you know why? I've pulled the students out, and the counter that I used, oops, where was I? Instructor? It's our counter. We can't use this. Because we have, every time we created a person, we have an employee, a student, a janitor. I took these people in here, and I put them in the student array, but the student array is not the same size as person.get. I'm running a method to get the counter value that's 5 or 6, and I only have 3 people. So the counter's too big. So I need to make this the size of this. So I have to get the size of this array. So I know how many students. The problem is I don't know how many students are in here. So I could keep a counter. Here's a stupid way of doing it. I'll show you a stupid way here. Private static student number, integer. Watch this, student number. So I have a student number counter. It's going to be equal to 0. And then for each one of the, I increment the student counter. So I'm in here, right? I'm going to put one in. If I'm going to find the students, I'm going to populate the array. Then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to say student counter. What's it called? Yeah, student number. Student number plus plus. Increment the student number. And then use the student number here. Oops, use the student number here. Actually, we don't even need to do the -1 at that point. It's a student number. It's another counter. Keeping track of how many students we put in there. And it's actually, it's going to mess up. It's going to mess up every time. So let's do it this way. It's going to mess up every time we run them. Every time we run the method, it's going to mess up. It's going to increment. So if I run the method one time, it's going to put 3 in there. I run it again, now it's going to be 6, 9. So I'm going to set it to 0 in the beginning here. I'm going to say that student number is going to be equal to 0. So in the beginning of finding students, I'm going to set the counter to 0. I can even do this if I wanted to now. I can just say student number. Well, person number I, student number, because we're looking at the student number array. Let's see if this works. Still got a problem. What is our problem here? Null pointer. Null pointer. Inside of method 1, 2, 3. Peter. Let's go back for a second here. You know what? I didn't put it in the print. This is bad. This is bad. I edited the wrong method. I edited the find students instead of editing the print students. It means we're going to have lunch soon. Yeah, let's go this way. Print students is the one that we were trying to modify. So let's do it this way. It's the one that had the error to begin with. So, let's see. We don't need to do this one anymore. Oh, do we need to do this one? Wait a minute. This is, wait a minute. That should have worked. Wait a minute. Inside of method, we have student number. Student number is 0. Yeah, wait a minute. Let's put this back. Hold on a second. That was the right method. No. What is it to undo? Oh, let's just do it. Hold on a second. User error. Very bad user error. This is correct. Student number. Student array. I. Okay, now this would work. There's nothing wrong with our print students. In our student number here, in the method, at the beginning of the method, we do need to set the student number equals 1, no, 0. We're going to use 0 for this. Let's just see which method is actually broken here. Is it this one? Or is it something else? I'm gonna do the test.studentPrint. I've commented that one out to see which method is the offending one. That's the one that's the offending one. So let's see. So leave this one alone. Go to here. I is equal to 0. I is less than the student number. Let's print out the student number. And then let's take this out, because that's the array. We're trying to index, we're getting a value on an array that doesn't exist, is what that problem is. So where's my student number? Hello, I thought I printed it out. Inside of method, 1, 2, 3, Peter, Paul. Here, let's just make it a little easier here. Print oh, I'm not running print students. That's probably why. Hold on 1 second. Okay. 3. Okay, so the number's 3. We're good with that. 3. So I is equal to 0. I is less than 3. 0, 1, 2. I plus plus. There's something wrong with this one then. Okay, so we pull this out. Student array to string. Oh, now the error went away. I don't know where I put the error originally, but the error has gone away. So I don't know why I was getting out of bounds then. It seems to be working right now. Anyway, so the troubleshooting that I was doing is, is kind of like my approach to it. Like, what is that value? And then usually when you get those bounds errors, it's because you're either reading past the bounds of the array, or you're trying to write something. You're trying to either write to it, or you're trying to read from something that doesn't exist. Is what the problem is. So I usually, first thing in my mind, I just check the number. So if we wanted to improve upon this design, we could have, and we didn't do this. I don't think we did this. We could have assigned students to faculty. So let's do it. Let's do it, because this is a simple, trivial fix. And you guys are going to hate me when I'm all done with this. So let's just, we have 3 students, right? We have Peter, Larry, and Mo. At least when we get done with this, then I don't have to do this later. I'm going to take these guys, and I'm going to use the array element to set the teacher name. And our instructor name is Peter. And then I'm going to use the array. I'm going to make a non-static one for the instructor. So Bob, instructor Peter, can go through the array of people and find out which ones are assigned with his name. So if I do that, I'm just gonna, maybe I'll just do it for one of them. I'll just go here, person, array. If you get this part, this is like above and beyond. Let's say, no, let's not use Peter. Let's go Larry, I, dot, set name, set teacher. Do we do a set teacher? Well, that might be the problem. Student. Do students keep track of their teachers? Well, they have a teacher. Teacher ID. Teacher name. Yikes. We could do the set. We can. Okay, let me just do some setters and getters. I don't think I did it. Or did I? Get teacher name. Get teacher ID. Set teacher name. I got it. Set teacher name. So I'm just going to do one student. I'm going to do student number 1, who's Larry. And I'm going to set him to Peter. Instructor Peter. So set teacher. Oh, it's a person. I have to cast the person to a student. This is torture. Let me just tell you what you would do. You'd cast the person to a student, Unless you just created the students. You could just create a, here, let's just do it this way. I got a better idea. No, it's not going to work because I'd have to cast it from a person. I could create the student, set the teacher ID, set the teacher name, take the student, put it into the person array, take the person array, pass it to the instructor. Instructor takes the array, just like we did a few minutes ago, goes through each one of the elements and checks in the students which one has their name on it. Only take those and stick them inside of their student array. And then we got it. I seriously don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's like a tongue twister at this point. I think I've lost everybody. So I think this one's done. I'm done with this one. I'll post the finished stuff. I'll leave it like this. You can tweak it. You want to add that part. You want to challenge yourself and add that part, go for it. You know how to do it. It's easy to do. It's not hard to do. You could probably figure out how to do it. So it's above and beyond the learning objectives of this exercise, though. And obviously, if you're doing this and you're not wanting to work with the interfaces, there's nothing in this assignment that requires you to write an interface. So you don't have to worry about the interfaces either. I put that in there as an extra kind of thing. Okay, so let me stop this recording. Stop